Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will continue to build the blog section of our website. So up in the address bar, if I add on a /blog at the end, here's the generic blog listing screen that we created in our previous lesson. And in this lesson, we're just going to continue building this out. Now, the first thing that I want to focus on is pagination. Now, by default, WordPress will show your 10 most recent blog posts, but what if we have more than 10 blog posts? Well, then we would need some sort of pagination links down here that take you to the next 10 and the next 10. Now, at the moment, I only have 4 total blog posts, and instead of going to create 10 or 20 dummy posts right now to test out pagination, let me show you what we can do instead. If we jump into our WordPress admin, let's look within the settings menu and then click on the reading option. So this field here, blog pages show at most, this controls how many blog posts get displayed per page. So instead of 10, if I set this to 2 and then click save, if we refresh our generic blog listing screen now, scroll down a bit, you can see that it only loads 2 blog posts, right? So then we would want pagination links here to take you to the next 2. So let's go ahead and add those links right now. Let's jump into our text editor, and in your theme folder, open up index.php, and we want to add the links at the bottom of the page. So let's scroll down to the bottom of this template, and let's add the links right before this final closing div. So that way the links are still horizontally centered within this container div. So right above this closing div line, I want to write a bit of PHP. Now I could open up PHP again, but I can see that it's already opening and closing here. So why don't we just add a new line right below this line, and now we're free to write whatever PHP we want. Now watch how easy it is to create pagination links. We just echo out the results of a WordPress function named paginate_links. That's all it takes. So if we save that and refresh, perfect. So we are on the initial just /blog page, or in other words, we're on the first or number 1 page of results, but then you could click on to or next to go to the next page of results. So up in the URL, now you can see it's /blog page 2. And this will show us 2 new blog posts. And now that's it, so there's no link to a third page, and you can click 1 to go back or previous to go back to the first page. Or if we wanted to, we could create 2 new dummy posts, and then there would indeed be a 3 to go to the next page. You get the idea. But really, that's all there is to creating simple pagination links. So now that we added that to the template and we tested it out, it works, it looks good, let's go back into our WordPress settings and bump this back up from 2 to the default of 10. Save changes, refresh the front end of our website. So we don't see any pagination links because I don't have more than 10 posts, so pagination isn't needed. But now we can rest assured knowing that once we create enough blog posts, those links will work just fine. All right, now let's change gears, and the next thing I want to work on is the single.php template, right? Because that's the template that's used if you click on one of these blog posts and visit the URL that is for just one single particular post. Now we can immediately see that this template needs our attention, right? Things don't look quite right. So let's fix this up right here, right now. Back in our text editor, let's jump into single.php. Let's begin by giving this template the same top banner area that all of our other templates use. Now we can save ourselves a lot of typing by just borrowing code from page.php, because single and page.php are very similar to one another. One is used for individual posts and the other is for individual pages. So obviously we can borrow quite a bit from page.php. So let's jump into that page file, and let's begin by copying this page banner div into our clipboard. And then back in single.php, let's paste in that code right below this the post line, right? Because this function, the post, gets the relevant data ready. So then right below that, we can add whatever HTML we want. Before we paste in our clipboard, we can actually go ahead and delete this heading level 2 and also this PHP section where we are calling the content function. Okay, so now we can go ahead and paste in our clipboard. That code will dynamically pull in the title of the current blog post. So if we save that and refresh, perfect. We've got the banner area and here is the real dynamic title. For now, don't worry about this subtitle. We will implement that in a future lesson. For now, let's focus on adding the actual content for this blog post. So back in our text editor, below this page banner div, we are going to want a new div that will horizontally center our content. And I don't expect us to memorize the class for that div, so we can just jump into page.php. And here's that div that I'm referring to. So it's got all of these classes that will apply the appropriate styling. So let's just copy and paste this opening div into our clipboard and then jump back into the single.php file that we are working on and then just paste in our clipboard right below this closing div. Cool, so we just opened up a new div. Let's be sure to close that same div out. And then within that div, let's open up a new line and let's do two things. First, let's say MetaBox will go here. That's just a note to ourselves. We'll add that in just a moment from now. And then below that line, let's open up a brand new div. Okay, and then close out the div. And let's give this new div a class of generic-content. Okay, and within this new div is where I'm going to output the blog post content. This generic content class will make sure that it gives the paragraphs and different heading levels the perfect styling. So within this div, we can just drop into PHP and use the function named the content. Cool, so if we save that and refresh, there's the dynamic body content for the post. Now we just need to set up the meta box. And what I have in mind for the meta box here is sort of a combination of what we see on the generic blog listing screen, right? Remember this beige meta box that we set up here with the author, the date, and the category? Let's combine that with the meta box we see on children pages. So for example, if I go up into the header and click on About Us, and then click on one of these children pages, remember here, this meta box has a nice link that takes you back to the previous page. So on individual blog posts, this backlink could say blog home. And this beige area can have the author, the date, and the category. Cool, so let me go back to an individual blog post screen. Second test post. And let's get to work on this meta box. So back in the text editor, at the moment I'm in single.php, but let's jump over into page.php, and right below the page banner and then this generic container div, right below that, this section is the meta box. Now we don't need any of this PHP at the beginning or the end, we just want the actual div that represents that meta box. So go ahead and highlight from the opening div to this closing div, and copy that to your clipboard. And then let's jump back into the single.php file that we're working on. And let's just replace this MetaBox will go here line with our clipboard. So paste that in. And then you'll notice an I element. That's what's creating the home icon. Now right after that icon is the text that says back to, and then it would normally say the parent page name. But in our case, instead of saying back to a page, we want it to just say blog home. So before we delete the words back to, let's delete this PHP here that's responsible for getting the name of the parent page. So from the opening PHP to the closing PHP tags, let's delete that. And now we can go ahead and replace this back to just say blog home. Okay, so that means that for this hyperlink, this A element, we just updated the text that you click on, but now let's be sure to update the URL that defines where you should go when you click it. So for the value of this href attribute, we're already going into PHP, but let's just go ahead and delete what's there. This code will echo out the permalink for the parent page, but that's not what we want. So let's delete that. Okay, so now I've just got a blank PHP canvas for this href value, and we just want to point towards our main generic blog listing URL. And remember, that's our domain and then /blog. So to output that, let's say echo the results of a function named site underscore URL. And that's a function, so parentheses, and then quotes. And now we can just say /blog. Cool. And this function will make sure that the URL it's generated is absolute instead of relative. So that way the link will work no matter where you're coming from. Okay, at this point, let's save that and see what it looks like. Cool, so we're almost there. We've got blog home, and if I click it, it takes me back to the blog listing screen. And then if I click back on one of my blog posts, all we need to do now is instead of outputting the title again here in the beige area, instead of that, let's output the author, the date, and the category for the blog post. So we don't need to rewrite that code. We can just copy and paste it. Remember, we already wrote that code back in our index.php file. So jump into your index file, and about halfway down in that file, we have a div with a class of MetaBox. Now we don't need to copy and paste that div element, nor do we even need to copy and paste the p HTML tag, but we do just want to copy and paste all of the content that lives inside that p tag. So copy from the word posted all the way to the end of this closing PHP tag. So I will copy that into my clipboard, and then let's go back into the single.php file that we're working on. Here's the MetaBox div that we're focusing on, and all we need to do now is just delete this PHP area that's echoing out the title. So now our cursor is simply within this span element right here, and just paste in your clipboard. Perfect. So that will give us the author, the date, and the category. So save that and then refresh. Perfect. And that means that our job of fixing up the single.php template is complete. Things are looking good. Now at this point, you might be wondering about this author link and this category link. So for example, I assigned this blog post to a category named awards, and if I click on that awards link, notice up in the address bar that takes us to /category/awards, and this screen will only show blog posts from that category. And you might be thinking to yourself, if we're on a category archive screen like this, do we really want to say welcome to our blog, or would it make more sense for this title text here to say awards category archive, or posts about awards, or something along those lines? Or, for another example, back in the MetaBox, what about the author link? So if I click on that link, up in the address bar we see author/Brad, and this screen obviously will only show blog posts from that author. And again, we would probably want this to say something like posts by Brad, or author archives, or something custom, right? Not just welcome to our blog. Well, in our very next lesson, we will learn how to do exactly that. It should be a lot of fun. Let's keep things rolling, and I will see you then.